Hey there folks, welcome you all to yet another podcast of mine. It's been a little while, people, hasn't it? Hey, I think I said that at the beginning of the last one as well. But it has been about 2 months, I think, since I've done one of these. And there has been quite a bit of news going on, but my diary's just kind of changed, people. You know, I've actually been throwing myself into the gaming itself, which has been superb. And I've been doing a lot of gaming off camera, as well as the recordings that I've been doing on camera for you guys with the Callisto Protocol and a bit of Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning. But I've kind of been limiting when I record and then giving myself a whole bunch of time just to play games, just for the fun of playing games instead of recording them and having all that work that comes with it, which I enjoy doing from time to time, but it does become a little bit of a chore if you're doing it non-stop. So it's been really nice just to chuck myself into gaming for a couple of months there, and I'll probably continue to do the same thing, along with bringing you guys some content over the coming months, and obviously over the Christmas break, of which I'll be off my day job as well, so I'll have plenty more time to be doing all sorts of recording and what have you, people. So, exciting times. The Game Awards 2022 is why we're here, people. It's why we're here. And let me say this and let me say no more. I didn't watch them. But I've watched the trailer. I've basically this morning when we woke up, because in the UK, for anyone watching abroad, it was on at about 12:30, in the morning, AM. Whereas everywhere else in the States and stuff, it was on at a reasonable hour. Over here, it was on at silly o'clock in the morning. So I basically woke up and looked at as much of the little sort of news and stuff that I could. So what I'm going to talk about here is the trailers that were on during the Game Awards, and not really so much about all the awards and all that sort of stuff. It's really about the trailers. However, we will start with... we put a poll up on the channel, people. Can let me say this before we get going. Flaggins up to you all, people. It is, in fact, Flaggins Up Friday. I'm late at getting to start recording this because it's Friday the 9th of December, and Brazil, the Brazil-Croatia game in the World Cup, one of the quarterfinals, went to extra time, then went to penalties, and I thought, well, I need to watch the penalties bloody now before I get recording, and I wanted to get this recorded before the Netherlands-Argentina game came on later. It's like, what's going on, people? So I had to stand and watch the penalties. Brazil just got knocked out, people. Can you believe it? But heck, everyone had them pegged for the favourites to win the damn thing. Anyway, flagging's up to you all, people. This is my first flagging in 2 months as well. What the shit? It's tasting good. That is gorgeous, people. Right, yes, we did. So far as the two things I will mention is Performer of the Year and Game of the Year, which we did I did a community question, should we say. I should have had this up, actually. How unprofessional of me, people. I shall keep talking away until I find the damn thing. Where are we? Community. So I put a poll up, and wow, we got 29 votes in the end. And I said, what's going to win the Game of the Year at the Game Awards 2022? And the options were God of War Ragnarok, Elden Ring, or other. And we got God of War Ragnarok got 17%, Elden Ring got 69%. Hey! 69, eh? And 17% for other people. So, yeah, I mean, you were right. Elden Ring won the Game of the Year, people. So it did. And I think that's probably right. And yes, I haven't played God of War Ragnarok. I have played God of War, the original one. Or the original reboot, if you like. And it's a stunning game and a stunning... I think that won Game of the Year that year. But I think because Elden Ring is a new franchise, I think it's only fair, that it gets that extra prestige, if you like, for getting the award. That's not to say a sequel can't win the award, but I think when you're up against something that's brand new and really good, whether I understand there's a lot of people out there that don't like Elden Ring and From Software games, and they just would rather something else won it, and that's fine, that's okay. But they are, love them or hate them, they are superb games. They just either suit you or they don't. And I loved Elden Ring. I've still not finished it, and I will get back to it. I just haven't had the buzz to get back to that Let's Play yet. I've still got the save. I know exactly where I'm stood in that Let's Play for the channel. So I will get back to it at some point. And so there you go. So Elden Ring won the Game of the Year. And Performer of the Year, though, went to Christopher Judge for his performance in the God of War Ragnarok and as Kratos. And I'm pretty chuffed with that. I love Christopher Judge, absolutely superb, because I'm a massive Stargate fan anyway. Teal'c's like a massive hero. So yeah, really chuffed for that. So God of War walked away with something. And we can all be pleased, I think, people. As far as the other awards go, I'm sure there's plenty of other podcasts and live streams that happened at the time to let you see who won what and where and when and how. So there you go. However, let's crack into the trailers that they announced during the... Now, there's a bit of a proviso to this, and we'll see how well I get on with this podcast, people, because, as I say, I've not had very long to... I mean, I have a day job, people, so I've had all day doing my day job, and I've been pelting it as well. I had a lot to do to get finished up for the weekend, which I managed to do, actually. But I haven't had a huge amount of time to watch the videos that I'm about to talk about. So these are going to be my initial thoughts on what was announced and what I think about them. Some of which I knew about already, some of which I didn't. And I will, as always, people, I will put the time codes. I normally... Sometimes I forget and I have to do them the following day. And I do get the odd message from time to time, people having strop-ons about the fact that, I've been watching this for... I get a message saying, I watched for 15 minutes and you still haven't got to the bloody topic that's on your thumbnail. It's like, yeah, the topic on the thumbnail is a highlight of the video. So I'm not going to just start talking about that at the very beginning of the hour. So I will try and put time codes down below. If I forget to, just post up and say, can you stick some time codes in? I'm more than happy to put some time codes in. And I do have it in my brain to do, but by the time I get through the evening, I sometimes just forget to put them up. But I will try and remember to put the time codes down so you can just slide to the bit you're interested in. And just skip my spraff, people, if you don't want to hear me going on about stuffs. Some of you do, and some of you don't like it. So there you are. Anyway, I've not had a lot of time to... take these in. I've had one watch of all of them, and we'll see what's stuck in my mind, right? So this is in no particular order, right? So this isn't in the order that they were shown at the Game Awards. This is just me plucking them out of obscurity this morning, as I knew that they'd had a new trailer. I just sort of went down the list. So, without further ado, I'm just going to check what time we're starting at here, people. So we're starting about 5 or so minutes ago, I think. 6 o'clock, right? So, first up, Jedi Survivor gets a new trailer, people, and, well, it got a launch date, but I feel like we had a launch date already, but I could be wrong about that. So, the way I position myself today, you can see all the games behind me. There's often something you can... Shall I sit like this so you can see a bit of the games? There you go. You often don't see this marvellous setup that I put in place so that I have all my historic games out. It goes right around the wall, well, right behind me here on the wall. It's got all my Xbox, well, it's got a mixture actually of it's got PS2, Xbox 360, and, what did I say there? PS2, PS3, Xbox 360, I think. Although there is more downstairs. There they are. Anywho, yes, Jedi Survivor trailer. It gave us a date, which we'll get to. Well, I can say it now. March 23rd, 2023. March has fast become a expensive month, people, because it's the same month that Resident Evil 4 Remake is coming. So March is already, oh shit, there's me wallet getting a big spanking, because we already know that, well, the first party games are all becoming 70 quid. Digitally, digitally Dead Space Remake is going to be 70 quid. But I think, order that game for 60 something. But all the games are getting up to that between 60 and 70 pound mark now, pretty much. Although Callisto Protocol was 45 quid, which was great physically. But when I bought it on the Xbox, there's a whole story behind that. If you don't know that story, I've shared it already. Because of the postal strike, it wasn't going to arrive in time and all that sort of malarkey. So I ended up buying it twice, and thankfully I loved that game, and I'm going to come back to that. That's going to be a separate podcast about what I think of Callisto Protocol. So March is going to be a very expensive month because there's already those 2 games coming, which is Jedi Fallen Order and Resident Evil 4 Remake, and I want both of them on day one. I'm hoping there's a bit of space. Have we got an actual date for Resident Evil 4? I didn't actually check that. I might have spoken about that already, but it's definitely in March, I'm sure it is. So it's not, I mean, it's a great problem to have. I'm not moaning, and I will buy them both on day one. I feel like, though, Jedi Fallen Order, although it will be slightly open world-ish, I feel like I'll probably complete that within the space of maybe 3 or 4 days if I just throw myself into it, because I won't record an entire playthrough of Jedi Fallen Order for the channel. It's just not the sort of thing people want me to do. So I might do Resident Evil 4 remake on the channel though, just like doing a little bit of the horror along with the RPG stuff. So yeah, I mean, if 23rd sort of quite late in March, isn't it? So maybe with a bit of luck, the Resi 4 remake might be earlier. But anyway, we'll find. Well, I'll have to go and look that up off camera. Someone's probably screaming it at me at the screen. If they come in the same week, I'm buggered, aren't I? So, well, the trailer itself, it looks much of the same, right? So it looks much like Jedi Fallen Order. The only thing that stood out to me, the only thing that stood out to me that might bug me, as I should say, one of the big gripes I had with Jedi Fallen Order, and I love that game. I mean, I gave it like a 9 out of 10, I think, because it was only because it felt a little bit unfinished. Like I felt like if it had more, well, not unfinished so far as the game itself went, but unfinished as to what the wrappings of the game could have been, like the costumes and the pickups and the things to look at and the interest's sake. I think that sort of stuff could have been deeper and nicer rather than 55 Shades of Poncho. There's a film for you. 55 Shades of Poncho. Hey, that'll have subtitles, that film. So, yeah, I mean, the thing that stood out to me was that every scene I think I saw him fighting in, he was wearing what I would have classified as his main clothes without the poncho. And I'm kind of hoping that that's early game and we find out, we get some sort of proper Jedi gear or cloth type, it's something that's a bit more Jedi-ish. I guess you can't walk around looking like a feckin' Jedi, because they know what Jedi's dress like, I suppose, because they look like monks with the lightsabers, don't they, effectively? So I think I'm hoping though that there's going to be a nicer clothing system. I get that he's supposed to be rebel on the run, a bit scrappy and stuff, but yeah, come on, the guy can visit a clothes shop. Just give him some decent kit to run around in. It just doesn't feel, much as though you're swinging a lightsaber about, I just don't feel Jedi enough when I've not got a decent set of clothes on. It's sort of that. I'm sure the stuff he was wearing in the first one was kind of just what he was. It not just what he left his job in. It was just some sort of, and surely by this point, I mean, he's grown a fucking beard in this one, people. It seems to be when you're a Jedi or becoming a Jedi, in the sequel you have to have a beard, because just to show you've matured a bit, you know what I mean? Time has passed and we've matured. It was like Obi-Wan, Obi-Wan, no beard in the first one, beard in the second one, grey in the third one. Something like that. What else stood out? The beard and the clothes. But the action seemed the same. I did spot that it did seem to be that he had moves that we hadn't seen in the other one. I was about to mention one, and actually I think we could do that in the first one, where you just freeze things in time. So I'm not sure how that's all going to work. You do see a scene where the ship crashes, so it could be that we get a new ship in the game, which wouldn't be a bad thing either, because the ship, it was fine for what it was, but it'd be nice to get some sort of new machine, a new ship to fly around in, just to freshen things up a bit, along with new clothings and possibly new lightsaber ideas and that sort of stuff. But it'll be interesting because they can't take Carl Kestis back to not having the skills that we built him up with in the first one. So where do they go with it as far as the upgrade path goes? There has to be more for you to learn. So that's going to be interesting, because they can't just unlearn everything you've learned in the first one. It just doesn't make any sense. So he would have to start the game with everything that you could possibly have got him in that first game. Otherwise, there's something really weird going on with what they've done there. It has to flow into the next one. So that's going to be interesting how they carry that forward. It's not. I mean, with RPGs, you can kind of get away with it if you say it's all your weapons that have got the level ups and not you, that sort of stuff. But in Jedi Fallen Order, a massive part of that was what you've learned as a Jedi in that game. So, or trying to become a Jedi in that game. So you can't then just unlearn that from somebody. So that has to be there. So it's going to be interesting to see what they've done with that. But it looks super exciting. I did get a buzz on when I saw it, and that's not a euphemism. And I'm really looking forward to it. Really, really looking forward to it. And I'm pretty sure that I feel like all the characters were back, but that said, I don't recall seeing the little guy who flew the ship in the trailer. But I think we saw the woman who was helping us in the first one. But it felt like in the trailer, it felt like we'd been away from her for a while, because she says something like, "Oh, I hear you've been busy making yourself the highest enemy of the Empire, or whatever, or the most wanted person by the Empire." So it's clear there's been a big gap of time between what we've just done when we finished the last one as to now, and there'll probably be story patched in to let us know what's kind of gone on between that and where we're starting this next one, which is good. I like that. I think just falling into the next one would have been a bit like, this is much of a muchness. With a bit of a gap, then you can fill in that story with flashbacks and things, and really progress things as far as the Star Wars universe story is going as well. So super excited for it, people. Really, really happy to see another trailer for it, and to get that release date if we didn't have it already. But I feel like I knew it was coming early next year. I think maybe we knew it was spring, but certainly anyway, March 23rd, 2023. Next up, Final Fantasy 16. Another trailer for Final Fantasy 16, people, and I've been struggling to get a buzz for Final Fantasy 16 because every time I see footage for it, let's say I've got a half buzz on, right? I've got a half buzz on for Final Fantasy 16. Because every time I saw trailers for it, it was all about one character. Like the fighting scenes were all one character with a summons, Ifrit. Well, I've always called it Ifrit. And in the trailer he says, Ifrit. It's like, go on then. He says Ifrit instead of Ifrit. But I say Ifrit anyway. I said Ifrit there because he said that in the trailer. I'm going to stick with Ifrit because that's what I always called him. It's like I've always said Tidus. I was rudely told it was Tidus by just about everyone else. It's like, well, you know, spell it as you're going to say it is my opinion, you know what I mean? It's an I there, so I'm saying Tidus. If you want it to be Tidus, put T-E-E-D-U-S in. You know what I mean? Anyway. Yeah, so I've seen all the trailers with, I think, Ifrit and another summons as well, which I'm forgetting. But we've seen other summons. Was it Shiva? Might have been Shiva. Or is it Shiva? Is it Shiva? I say Shiva. Or is it Shiva now? Could be Shiva, because she's the cold one right now. Anyway, I say Shiva. I say Shiva, you say tomato. You know what I'm saying? Let's call the whole thing off. For me, Final Fantasy's always kind of been about the whole party thing going on. And I kind of forgave Final Fantasy VII Remake to some degree, because you do end up back in a party. It's not turn-based fighting, and it is a different mechanic, but it's a fantastic game. But you do a fair bit on your own, but you do end up in party fighting. And everything I'd seen about Final Fantasy 16 did not show any party fighting at all. It was all you on your own or you with the summons. And it seemed to be that this was a game that was going to be big. It was going to be all about the summons. And I'm kind of split about that, right? Because whenever I play Final Fantasy games, I always feel like everything else I do becomes more uber than a summons is. Which is not meant to be the case. The summons is meant to be the most uber thing you've got, in my mind's eye, but in actual fact, what you end up with is using the summons. Normally, I would, if I was finding that the team were struggling and I needed to get some sort of health go, you know, some sort of whether it be healing or whatever going on, or it's near the end of a fight and everyone's looking a bit like they're going to drop, then I would pull out the summons and let them take a bit of flak for a bit, and hopefully that'd see us through. Would be the way I would normally do it, because generally speaking, I'd have other moves that are more powerful than the summons. So I felt kind of like, well, that's good, because maybe they're going to make the summons far more uber and more of a thing. And then, I mean, maybe I'll be using summons wrong, people, you can let me know. But I've in all the Final Fantasies I've played, I always end up using them as a sort of side thing. And to make them more up front, I think is probably great. But I still want a party of people. I feel like without a party of people, it doesn't feel like a Final Fantasy game so much. Anyway, in this trailer, there were certain bits of that, which I'll be showing behind me, like all of the things I'm talking about. The trailer did show footage where there was 3 people in a battle, you and 2 other people. There was a female character and a male character in the bits that we saw. So I'm really hoping that that's the case. It doesn't look turn-based. I say it doesn't look turn-based like the old Final Fantasies. It does look more like the combat from Final Fantasy VII Remake. So, which isn't a bad thing. I actually really like the combat in Final Fantasy VII Remake. And if we're going back to turn-based, I've talked about this a lot. Final Fantasy 13 isn't my favourite Final Fantasy, but it is my favourite Final Fantasy fighting mechanic when it comes to the turn-based fighting, because of the way they did the paradigm system, and you were never sort of sat there waiting for things to happen. You were always on the move with it. Also, people that didn't fight also got the level up points from the fighting you were doing, so it wasn't like 10 where you had to keep swapping people into the party. Like, I literally, every fight I did in Final Fantasy, irrelevant how small the enemy was in Final Fantasy X, I would swap party members out to make sure everybody got a go in that fight, so that everybody got, it was so frustrating, so that everybody got points to spend, because if you didn't, you'd end up with loads of weak characters. So, or 3 weak characters, whatever it was. So with Final Fantasy 13, you didn't have to worry about that, because everyone got points anyway, so if you brought people in, you could just level them up straight away, which is great. And, yeah, I mean, you know, the sphere grid in 10 was superb, I loved it. But you do, I mean, I felt like there was less freedom in the sphere grid in 13, but it's still a great game. Anyway, I digress, people. So Final Fantasy 16 has now got me proper buzzing, and I love the fact that it is a more medieval type of setting, and it does feel dark. I mean, they've all got a dark tone to them, to be fair, Final Fantasy games, but this one does feel a little bit darker, and it is in that sort of Knights era rather than some sort of alternate future or future era, which I think is quite cool, because I don't feel like I've ever had that vibe in it before. So I'm really looking forward to it. It looks superb. Did we get a date? No, we didn't get a date, but we did get June 2023. So it's coming in June, people. So I've got March to get through Jedi Fallen Order and Resident Evil 4 Remake, and then I've got May. I've got May to see what happens in May, and then I've got June. I've got Final Fantasy 16. It's going to be a very expensive year, people. I'll tell you that much. Which, I mean, to be fair, it's only because these are all games that I would absolutely buy on day one. Like, I still haven't bought God of War Ragnarok, even though I know that I want to play that game at some point. I just didn't have enough of a buzz on to buy it on day one. But with these games, all 3 of them at the moment, I've got a buzz on for them. So they're all going to be day one purchases. Let me see. Next up, we had Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League trailer. Now, the only thing bugging me about these is that I don't know if this... Well, firstly, what I was going to say there was, firstly, the only thing bugging me is that every time we see anything to do with this game, it's always a CGI trailer. It's nothing... Well, I say CGI, it might be in-game, but it looks CGI. It's always a CGI trailer, and you don't see any gameplay. And as far as I recall, none of the stuff we've seen has shown us any gameplay. So it's like, it's fine if you want to keep hyping your game, but at least show us what is, you know, what it's going to be like. But don't just keep showing us CGI trailers. To be fair, the CGI trailers aren't even, I mean, they're fine, but they're not, it's not like they're blowing the fucking socks off us or anything. It's almost like getting 2 minutes of a fucking Guardians of the Galaxy or something. It's like, it's not that riveting, people, you know what I mean? So I get that you want to keep promoting your game to say it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. Well, show us some fucking gameplay and get us excited then. I don't mind even if it's tiny like Final Fantasy trailer, there was like snippets of gameplay just thrown in between all of the sort of live action stuff. At least just do that. You know, I mean, how can I get excited for that game when I've got no clue as to what it even involves, or... I mean, I assume you can play as every character, we don't know. Is it... I mean, they might have told us more than I know, but I still haven't seen any gameplay footage. I mean, Rocksteady aren't going to let us down, but as far as it goes, we always know they're going to... Every Batman game they ever did was fantastic, and apart from being forced to fight tanks for a large portion of that last game, but they really wanted you to use that car, people. They really wanted you to. But I feel like if we're just... I don't know, I kind of feel like what we're going to get is just a Batman Arkham Knight, but not Batman. You're playing as these guys from the Suicide Squad. All of the Justice League have gone bad, so you've got they're your bosses through the game, I suppose, and you'll just be going around doing stuff.
Or maybe it's not. Maybe it's something completely different. It's a multiplayer thing that I'm not grasping. But show us some gameplay, people, to get us excited. Because everything I've seen about this game is nothing but CGI footage. And none of the characters are anyone that I would particularly want to play as anyway. So you need to give me some... You need to give me something that's going to make me want to play as those characters. Because they... Like, I wouldn't have asked anybody for a game of any of those characters so I could play as them. So putting 4 of them together doesn't really change anything. I would never want to play them as heroes. So you need to make me want to play them as heroes. And the only way you're going to do that is by showing me gameplay and showing me something more than just random CGI trailers trying to make me laugh with bad jokes, which is what that one was. I mean, it looked good enough, but it did nothing to make me think I really want that at launch, or all it did was really say to my brain, well, that's still somewhere in the works, but I have no excitement about it whatsoever. Moving on then, I mean, it sounds like I'm being really negative against Rocksteady, and I'm not. I appreciate they're doing something new, and that's all good and well. I'm only having a go, and I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic game. I'm only having a go at the way that they're pushing it. And I think the days of just showing us CGI trailers are well and truly gone. If you want to excite people about your game that's coming, and you want people to start pre-ordering or doing all sorts of that sort of stuff, you've got to show us some gameplay footage, because it's just not good enough to show CGI trailers anymore. People want to know what the game is. So anyway, so that's, I mean, I'm not being negative against Rocksteady. They're a fantastic studio that's given us fantastic games. I'm just being negative against what they're showing us in order to get us excited for the game. It would do them great benefit, in my opinion, to show us a bit of gameplay to get people excited and interested who probably aren't already. Next up, we've got Lords of the Fallen, people. Now, I don't know where that came from, but apparently Lords of the Fallen is getting a reboot. So they're starting the Lords of the Fallen thing from the scratch, and we can only assume, I mean, it feels like, from what they were saying in the trailer and stuff, that the world and the gods and the enemies and the big bosses and stuff, I think they're going to be kind of, I don't know, because I don't know enough about it. I played the Lords of the Fallen once, not all the way through, did a bit on the channel. He didn't keep my interest up long enough, I don't think, to get that far into it. In fact, I think I did another play of it when it hit the back compat and boost mode, just to show it off. And it was actually, well, it's a very like Dark Souls type game, effectively, and it did struggle with its frame rates and stuff. When it hit the back compat and the boost mode, you suddenly got this super nice 60 FPS. I can't remember if it was boost mode that gave it 60 FPS or whether it was unlocked or it was uncapped. So when it hit the back compat, it just kind of worked really well on the Series X. I'm pretty sure I did a Series X play just to show it off with the extra, and it did play a lot better, a lot smoother. The screen tearing had gone and what have you. But I think now that the shackles are off with the hardware, they clearly want to do something a bit more epic with the lore that is the Lords of the Fallen lore. And again, I'm trying to think now. I remember all the massive bosses, well, all the massive creatures and stuff in it, the trailer, but I'm not remembering any gameplay, but I could be wrong, and it'll be playing behind me and you'll all be saying, there it's there, Steve, you've forgotten it. But yeah, I mean,
did it get me buzzing? Not really. Am I confused as to why they're doing it? I was a little bit at first, but I kind of get it so far as I don't think they're remaking the same game again. I think they're just saying, right, we want to keep that world and we're gonna do a whole new fresh thing with it. And that's fine. If you feel like you've got a good lore and a good universe to work in, then just go for it. Just dump what you did before, move and start all over. That's fine. So it's certainly not. It seems to be reboot, not remake, which is great. If they'd said remake, I would have been like, why are you doing that? It was okay, but it wasn't amazing. So yeah, I'm very interested to see what's coming up with that. I guess it's probably not that. Did it give us a date? No, there was no date given in the trailer. Not that I've jotted down anyway. So anyway, interesting one. I was just very surprised to see it, but I'm happy that it's happening. And if I see stuff that makes me really interested in it, I'll certainly be. I mean, I enjoyed what I played of that other one, and if the mechanics are very Dark Soulsy, then I'll certainly be up for giving it a play. I think, but probably not day one. But I will give it a go at some point. I suppose. Next up, Baldur's Gate 3. Now, I've talked about Baldur's Gate 3 in other podcasts. And this is being made by the Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 were very old games made by different people. And the people that make Divinity Original Sin and Divinity Original Sin 2, Larian Studios, approached the person that owns the Baldur's Gate franchise and basically said, look, we want to make a Baldur's Gate 3. Can we do it? And they had this huge discussion. And he loved what they'd done with the Divinity games, thought it would fit well with the Baldur's Gate and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, so they've been building this. Now my confusion here is that it's Baldur's Gate being announced, and it's got a date of I just said August 2023, right? Now I feel like this game is already on PC because I've seen loads of Baldur's Gate stuff being posted up. So either it's just people that have been given access, limited access, or it was early access while they were on with the game, or it's released for PC and now it's coming to console. But at the end of the trailer, it didn't say anything about who was getting it in 2023. I looked really closely because I was getting excited because I thought, oh, fucking finally, we're going to get it on console. But it didn't say anything. And I'm sure I've seen loads of stuff with it playing on PC, so I'm a bit confused as to... I think I've got confused as to, is this game actually out on PC? I thought it was out on PC already. So I'm very confused. It's either announcing it for console or it's announcing it for PC because it was in early access for PC or something like that. So I don't know. Let me know in the comments below if you know the answer to that. But Divinity Original Sin and Divinity Original Sin 2, I love those games. And it's the bane of my life or the bane of my mind or it niggles at me, people, that I didn't finish Divinity Original Sin 1. I was so close to the end, and the whole Let's Plays on the channel from years ago, and it really bugged me that I never finished it, because it was hard work as well. These games are, well, I say hard work in a good way, so far as it was one of those Let's Plays where I got loads of feedback from people telling me, do this, do that, because it doesn't hold your hand. You basically got to go everywhere. You got to talk to everyone, and those people will tell you where you need to go and you need to do this. It'll guide you sometimes to where you need to go, but in the main part, you've just got to go and figure it out. By talking to that guy who says go over there to do this and all that, you have to sort of follow what you're being told, and you do have to speak to everyone and all that sort of stuff. So it wasn't like, go here, do that. Oh, there's a thing on the map. I'll go there, do that. Oh, there's a thing, and it just hold your hand. You've got to figure it all out yourself. So it was one of those things where it did become a little bit frustrating at times, but only because I wasn't used to it. If you were a PC player, you would have been used to it because there's a lot of stuff like that, I think, on PC. But Divinity, yeah. So I got really far through it, and it just sort of, I can't even remember why, but I didn't manage to finish it, and I was really close to the end. And then Divinity Original Sin 2 came out a few years back, and I got kind of into that. I can't remember why I stopped playing. Okay, it's probably because another game came out, but I stopped playing it, or it just wasn't particularly popular on the channel. But I think it was quite popular on the channel. Anyway, I had a massive urge to play it again because of the Series X, but then discovered it wasn't uncapped, so it still runs at 30 FPS. Which it's not nice to look at anymore. My eyes can't do it, people. I can't go back to 30 FPS games. I tried to play ages ago. I'm going to get digressed here a little bit, but ages ago I bought the Arkham Knight double pack Return to Arkham double pack, where it's the first and second Batman game, and I wanted to play them again. And I bought it years ago, and I never got around to playing it. I've played those games obviously before on the PS3 and what have you, but on the PS4 where it was sort of remastered and what have you, I hadn't played them again. And I put them in, and for the life of me, I have no idea why they've not patched them to run at 60 FPS on the new consoles. And I was like, I can't do it. I tried to play them. My eyes were just like, I can't do this anymore. I'm so used to 60 FPS now that my eyes can't cope with 30 FPS. I'm like, it's just too jittery and no. So yeah, so I wanted to play the Divinity games again. Well, certainly Divinity Original Sin 2, because I didn't do a huge amount. I did a fair few hours, but I don't feel like actually, I'm saying that. I think now that I'm saying that, I'm in recollections of doing a fair bit in that game, but I don't think I was anywhere as far through it as I was in the first one, Divinity Original Sin 1. So I just feel if they were to give that Divinity Resistance 2 a patch or unlock the frame rate for the new gen consoles, then I would be willing and happy to go back and either pick up the save I already had and finish that Let's Play, or just start it again. But I love what they did with those games. I love the combat, the turn-based combat and strategy combat they put in it. And I mean, you can be sat in a fight for 20 minutes, like trying all your moves out and stuff. It gets really difficult. You've really got to be aware of your elemental damages. You can use the world to help you, like if there's water there and you can see them standing in water, you can turf some electricity toward the water and, you know, get extra bonus damage, or fire and water can cancel each other out, and all that snow and all that sort of stuff, ice. So I loved it. It was a great game, great stories in them, great characters in them, with each character having its own. So all of these things are all things that look like they've been brought into this Baldur's Gate 3 to get back on track. And I'm really excited to see what they've done with it, because I feel like they've managed to now make a game in a really top-end world of Baldur's Gate. And I can't remember now, thinking back to the trailer, as to whether there was I think there was a little bit of gameplay where you saw them running around in a group. So it is done in the same way. I think you can have up to a group of 4 in Divinity, if I remember. And actually, it might be more than that. I can't remember now. But anyway, you can have a nice group of people, all with different powers, all capable of different things. Very, very cool. But it looks like they've brought all of that into Baldur's Gate 3, and I'm super excited to see what they've done with it. But let me know in the comments below if you know if that's coming. I mean, I think it will come to console at some point, but I want to know if that August date is for everywhere, or whether it's just... I feel like it's just PC. But let me know in the comments below if you know the answer to that, people. Diablo 4 got another outing, another trailer. I'm super excited about that game. It's coming on the 6th of June. Oh, God, there's another one in June. June's an expensive month. Go, Bennett, we've got bloody Final Fantasy and Diablo in June. Oh, for fuck's sake. It's getting out of hand, people. I can't not buy these games in bloody day one. Come on now. So, Final Fantasy, yeah, 6th of June. Oh, yeah, Final Fantasy didn't say, did it? It just said June. I don't know what date that's coming out. Well, I feel like if they're being sensible, usually they avoid each other big games. So I feel like if they know Diablo's out on the 6th, they'll wait a couple of weeks, I would think, to push it to the end of June. If there's any sense in the world, people. But Diablo 4 looks fantastic, and we're talking about an open world Diablo game, people, which, I mean, I've spoken about in other podcasts before, but you're looking at an open world. You can have a steed in this one where you can ride and jump off the steed right into battles and stuff. They're going to continue to support it with content for years and years to come. They've already said that. So it's really going to have these seasonal things going on. It's always going to feel fresh to go back to. They're really investing in it heavily, and I feel like they're doing a cracking job with it. The graphics have all gone more realistic rather than the cartoon sort of graphic style they went with in Diablo 3. And I love Diablo 3 and I love the style, but it's nice that they've done this one more realistic graphics, rather than the cartoon type graphics, for me anyway, just to mix it up a bit and make it feel like a different game. And it looks awesome. The classes look awesome. The battle system, all the battle stuff I've seen looks awesome. They've shown us loads of gameplay footage of the battling in it, on the steed, off the steed. Looks superb. Absolutely buzzing for Diablo 4, people. Let me know in the comments below about your Diablo 4 vibes, people, because I'm buzzing for that game. I really am. And I will definitely play that on the channel. Hades 2 got a trailer. Again, Hades is something that I've not played. Aaron Brew said it was his game of the year, the game that it came out. He absolutely adored that game. I think he played it on Switch, and then he might have played it again on PS4. I can't remember, but he's definitely hammered that game over and over again. He absolutely loved it. So Hades 2 got its trailer, but maybe I'll play Hades one day and I'll buzz for it and be buzzing for 2, but I've not got a buzz for it at the moment. So, but I'm sure there's loads of folk that have. And that Hades game got Game of the Year and everything the year it came out, didn't it? And it was from a smaller studio, and it was a smaller game effectively, but it did everything it did so perfectly that it got all sorts of 10 out of 10s. It won, I'm sure it won the game of the year on the Game Awards. Sure, it just battered everything. It was so highly praised by everybody. So it needs to be something I get back into. Actually buy at some point and just give it a go. I mean, I was going to say there that if it hits Game Pass at some point, I'll probably play it, but I don't have Game Pass anymore. That's another journey and another story for another time. I will buy Game Pass again, but probably when a big blockbuster comes out like Starfield. So anyway, I'll come back to all of that, either in this podcast or another. What else did we have, people? Armoured Core 6. Armoured Core 6, I think that is. Fires of Rubicon is coming in 2023. I don't know anything about Armoured Core, but what I do know is it's from Software that make it, the people that make Dark Souls and Bloodborne and all that, and Elden Ring. So I'm curious about it, but to be honest with you, I'm not anything to do with robots and mechs. I'm more stoked about stuff that's sort of medieval and swords and shields and stuff. But that's in. I guess what I'm getting at is I love Dark Souls, but not so much the Surge, right? Because the Surge is all about sort of mechanical and buzzing weapons and stuff for those sort of games. So whatever this game is, might get me buzzing because I don't know what the game is. If it's a Dark Souls with machines in it, then that's not going to get me buzzing. But I don't know. I just feel like this game is something I'm not going to be interested in because it's all about massive robots fighting each other, and that's not for me. I'm not a Transformers guy, you know what I mean? But there are exceptions to the rules so far as like Still Rising. Absolutely, I need to finish that, people. I must be so close to the end of that game on that Let's Play, and I've not got back to it on the channel. But Still Rising, having a ball with that. And that's all robots, but set in what is it, 18th, 17th century France? Can't remember what it is. And it's just superb. The whole vibe of it's really, really, really done really well. And but it's sci-fi stuff doesn't generally, in the world of anything sort of remotely aiming towards RPG, generally doesn't get me excited. That said, Mass Effect 1 is a massive favourite of mine since the dawn of time, so I guess it depends how it's done. But that's not about robots and shit, though. That's about, it's in the future, but it's about other creatures and races and powers, and so that's different. Anything to do with machines is kind of like, I mean, it was actually a point in Callisto Protocol, which, by the way, I finished on the Xbox Series X on the channel. The final episodes go up tomorrow. So you got part 12 today, part 13 and 14 is the finale, are both up tomorrow, which is Saturday the 10th, people. So if you're interested in watching the Callisto Protocol playthrough, that is it. There's some F-bombs in there, people, some of those battles. But I loved it. I loved it so much, I immediately started playing it on the PS5 on hard mode. And I'm doing really well, actually, to be fair, on hard mode. Now that I've got the game nailed down as to how everything works, I'm doing really well. So yeah, I'm about halfway. I think I might be over halfway through now. I've got the suit and everything on hard mode. So yeah, we're approaching the more difficult bits though. So it'll be interesting to see what those bits are like on hard mode. I digressed there, people. Oh yeah, that's what I was going to say. At the beginning of the game, because the whole thing's meant to be about biophagy and people mutating and stuff, but I saw robots at the beginning of the game. And I was like, oh fuck me, please tell me I'm not fighting robots in this game. And funnily enough, there's very little of it in the game, and you don't have to fight them at all. You can just sneak past them. They're just prison guards, basically, is what they are. Metal prison guards for where you are, and they just maintain order in the prison. And there's not that many. A lot of them are broken and busted because of what's happened, and there's just some still roaming about. And you can sneak past them, but there's a trophy actually, or achievement, for shooting them, for killing them. You shoot them in the face about 4 or 5 times, they'll go down soon enough. You just got to not get hit by them. So I was thankful that the game was like, no, they're just sort of there wandering about. They're not a main thing. You're not going to be anywhere near them for any regular amount of time. In fact, I think you only see them about 3 times in the game. You have to deal with them. Superb game, by the way, absolutely superb. Don't believe what you're seeing. It's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, so Armoured Core 4, 6, no idea what to expect or what have you, but it's from Software, so I think it's a franchise that's been one of their franchises that's been on a back burner for many, many years, and they've brought it back to life, so I'm sure there's lots of folk out there excited. Maybe you can let me know in the comments below if you know anything about Armoured Core and what I might be what I might not know about it, and maybe it'll get me excited about it. Remnant 2 had a trailer. I don't know anything about Remnant, people. However, this trailer looked exceptionally interesting. Is that a sentence? Can I use that? Exceptionally interesting. It did get my interest up, I have to say, because it did look kind of a cross. It looked very sort of old and medieval, but then I think there was kind of sort of future-y looking things in it as well. It looked really odd, but it did look super interesting. I feel like, I don't know, I think when I watched it, I felt like, although it looked grandiose, I felt like maybe it was being done by like what are the name of those studios that do the, I guess like the Surge and all that. I don't think they do. I'm forgetting the name of the studio now, but it feels like it's not one of the bigger people making it. They're sort of in the middle there somewhere making it, sort of double A if you like. But it did look really good, though, I have to say. It did get my interest up, and there was a lot going on in the trailer. The action looked really cool. The concept looked really cool. The story and everything in there, if I'm remembering the same trailer, I'm sure I am, but the story and everything looked really interesting as to what they'd done and stuff as well. I'm sure, I'm just looking down my notes here, but I'm sure this is the one where there was portals to other places and stuff. And I might be getting this wrong, but I feel like this was the trailer where it kind of started off with the guy walking with a sort of shotgun and stuff. He looked like he was from the 1930s or something. And then the battling all kicked off, and then it all seemed to be, didn't look like that at all. It seemed to go into magics and shootings and swords and all sorts of stuff. It was almost like you're portaling into all different sorts of time. I could be getting completely confused with another trailer, people, but I do remember Remnant 2 being very exciting. I did tell you it was going to be what can I remember from watching these once. So anyway, I'm very, very interested to see what that is all about, because it did get my interest up. But I have never in my life seen anything to do with Remnant 1. So, although I think it's called Remnant something of the something. I don't think it's called Remnant 1 or just Remnant. But I think it obviously a big game, otherwise there wouldn't be a second one, would there? So let me know in the comments below if you know anything about Remnant and whether or not you're excited about it. There was a trailer, actually, I was quite excited about, and then realised it was for PSVR 2 and I think Oculus as well for the PC or whatever. It's called Behemoth. And I saw the trailer came up and I thought, oh, hello, this is all a bit medieval RPG. This looks right up my street. And nothing, for the first time watching a virtual reality trailer, I didn't know until the end of the trailer that that's what it was. And now you can tell me if I've missed a trick here, and it is actually doesn't have to be played in virtual reality, and it is actually a game that just can be played in virtual reality. But when it came up at the end of the trailer, it had all the virtual reality platforms sort of pop up. So I felt like it was a VR game. Now, that's what I've been missing from VR, to be even remotely interested in it. I've always found it a little bit like it doesn't feel right lifelike, because for some reason I've got just these hands floating in the air in this game I'm playing. Like, not arms or anything. I've just got these hands for grabbing stuff floating around. Or it just felt like it was all done specifically just because they wanted to do something funky with VR. And it's like, I want them to make games that are just great games, where they've thought about how it's going to look amazing in VR, rather than constantly aim at, like, it has to be a horror game because VR, it has to be a first person this because of VR. You know, it has to be, I mean, I get first person part, you know, third person in VR is probably going to be a bit weird. Could happen. But you know what I'm getting at, though? Don't make a VR game. Make a game that is superb in VR. And we have got games that now work. In fact, am I not right in saying that Resident Evil Village works in VR? I could be wrong about that. I feel like it does, though. And there are big games that now work in VR. I think Skyrim can work in VR. How they play in VR, I've got no idea. But anyway, yeah, this trailer for Behemoth was like, yeah, that got my goat right up. I thought, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't go out and buy PlayStation VR 2 just for that game, but that's the sort of game that's going to sell the PlayStation VR 2, which is not out yet, is it? I don't think. I think it comes out next year. I think it's early next year. correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I think it's early next year, and I think it's very expensive. I think it's like 300 quid or something. So you're looking at the price of another console, effectively. It might even be more than that, I can't remember. But it is supposed to be superb, and as far as I know, it is literally one USB cable plugged in, whereas the old one was like fucking cables everywhere. It was like fucking spaghetti junction, which always put me off as well. So, yeah, I mean, I'm... Also, yeah, the only other thing about the VR is that when I look in the screen, much as though it's amazing when you're looking around, I still feel like I've got binoculars on because of this separation. And I'm like, why can it not just be one thing? But I think it must be to do with the way that your eyes work, effectively, taking in different things at different times. Otherwise, if it's one screen, you're just panning around a screen. So I feel like that's just something I'm going to have to get over. I think it's just the way things have to work when they're up close to your face like that with your eyes on the thing. But anyway, I'm more interested about VR now than I've ever been, but I'm still not ready to go out and spend that sort of money on it. And there you are, folks. That is everything I picked up from the Game Awards trailers and the 2 awards that I was going to mention. How long have we been going for, people? I think we've been going for nearly an hour, to be fair. I was going to do... I kind of was torn about talking about my Callisto Protocol playthrough and people's reaction to the game, how it's divided people, all that sort of stuff in this podcast, but I think I'm going to save it for a podcast episode. I think it deserves it. In brief, I loved it. My score is probably a 9.5 to a 9.75 out of 10. And I'll talk about all of why that's... I mean, it would have been a 10 out of 10 for just the lack of a few things, really. Nothing major, it was just the lack of a few things. And I feel like those things would have been there had they had more time and all that sort of stuff. So I think they were just adamant that they wanted to make that deadline before Dead Space Remake came out, before Resident Evil 4 Remake came out, and just beat them to the punch on the horror franchise. So I loved it. Absolutely adored it. And I think... If you can just learn the battle mechanics, it took me 3 hours, right? It took me 3 hours of moaning to suddenly understand how the dodging mechanic worked. And once you understand the dodging mechanic and understand how to time your melee attacks and stuff, it is super. It's such a joy to play. It is superb, really, really good. It's one of my favourite horror genre / sci-fi genre games that I've played in a really long time. It's not often that I'll play a game, finish it, and then immediately go and play it again. And that's exactly what I've done with this. And thankfully, there's no New Game Plus yet. It's coming as part of the DLC. Well, I'm assuming it's all coming at the same time, but it's coming next year. There's a season pass. There's going to be more story. There's going to be the season pass comes with a whole bunch of suit types, suits and all sorts of other things, clothing and malarkeys. And then New Game Plus will be coming with that, so you can play through it again with all your gear. But it's not there yet. So I've jumped from finishing it on the Xbox, where I've got 22 of 26 trophies. It's not a hard plat, by the way, as long as you're happy to try through it. You need to get the achievement / trophy for finishing it on hard, which I'm doing on the PlayStation. But the frustrating part at the moment will be getting the trophies for getting all the audio logs, and there's something else as well. There's audio logs, and then the things you pull out of the necks of the dead folks that work there. So there's some collectible things, and they are really easy not to find because there's so many nooks and crannies when you're going through the game. It'd be dead easy to miss one. So you would have to, unless you're really lucky and super observant and not miss anything at all, you'd have to really use a guides to make sure you don't miss any, because at the moment there's no chapters selection, so you've got to play the whole thing. And in fact, I think the trophy says you've got to get them all in one playthrough. You can't just come back and get them from that bit. So that's a little bit frustrating, but other than that, it's an easy trophy. It might be worth waiting to do that when the New Game Plus comes out. It might come with chapters. I feel like chapter select is going to come. I think it was another thing that just wasn't ready. Weirdly, really weirdly, one of the things that most people give us now 6 months after a game's been out They go, oh, here you go. We're giving you a photo mode that everyone's been asking for. We're going to put a photo mode in the game. And they put the photo mode in 6 months after the game launched. This game has got other things missing that you would think should be there at launch, but they've given you a photo mode straight off the bat. I think they must have been that impressed with that. I mean, it's a really good looking game, people. This game is stunning. Really stunning. I mean, it's probably the best looking game I've seen this gen, I would think. I mean, it just looked incredible. Super. I mean, I say that. There are little bits of it where I'm like, the fire kind of caught me. It looks great from a distance, but when you're up close to little pockets of fire, it looked a little bit cartoony. It didn't look quite real. But very tiny thing. I mean, when you're playing the game, you really don't notice it. It's only when you stop and look and, you know, the big bits of fire kind of look great. But yeah, stunning looking game. Superb looking game. Loved it. So there you are, folks. That's all I have for you. I'm not going to ramble on about anything else because I wanted to watch the Netherlands-Argentina game. And I've got to edit all this together for you guys first. I've already downloaded the videos so I can put them up behind me. Flagging's up to you all, people, once again. I think what I'll do is I'll bring the iPad up here because I edit the video right next to where this camera is. The laptop's there.
I can put the game on the iPad while I'm editing this for you guys, and hopefully I'll get it out for you tonight. Usually it takes, I don't know actually, because the actual rendering, because Wondershare, Filmora at Wondershare, if you're into any of this sort of stuff, doing podcasts or anything like that, I cannot recommend highly enough the Filmora product, the Wondershare from Wondershare. It is, and sold, I mean, it is a great product in general for smelting video stuff together and everything, but what it does better than anything else I've seen on the market is an insanely quick rendering time. So when you've put everything together, normally like this sort of video with all the clips and everything behind you would take fucking hours to render. And then Filmora just goes, yeah, I'll have that ready for you in half an hour, it's fine, don't worry about it. The recordings I do for my Let's Plays, I usually record, let's say, an hour of footage at 1080p, 60 frames per second, put an intro and an outro on it, and then render it. On my old system, or the old software I was using, that would take, for an hour's worth of 60 FPS, it would take it near on an hour and a half to an hour and 40 minutes just to render it. With Filmora, it does it in 20-25 minutes. It's fucking insane. And yeah, the setting, in fact, I'm rendering it at a higher quality than I was with the other ones as well. I upped the quality slightly, and it's doing it even quicker. It's just insane, absolutely insane. So if you're doing anything like this to do with rendering videos or Let's Plays or anything like that, go and take a look at. You can actually, as far as I remember, you can actually use it. It's like a free version you can use, but it puts a little logo on your videos. But if you just want to see what I'm saying about how quick it is, you can at least try it on the free version and then just go, fucking hell, that's amazing. And for me, it makes all the difference when I'm doing a Let's Play with loads, you know, to be able to render all that and upload it in the speed that I can. The slowest part now is uploading it, because those videos will be, say, 10 to 15 gig, depending on whatever. That takes, and I've got the highest upload speed you can really get in this country, outside of having a leased line, which is only, 12 megabyte or something up the way from BT. Whereas I've got 50 coming down the way at the moment. 50 megabyte download. I used to have the 71, but I didn't really see any purpose to it, really. 50's so quick anyway, I just sort of lived with that. But yeah, I mean, that's the longest part now, is uploading those videos. So, and that's fine, because I can just sit, that doesn't stop me doing anything, but the rendering does. If I've got, it's like, I don't want to wait 2 hours for that to render, because I want to record some more. So if all I have to do is like, right, I'll render that for 20 minutes, take a quick break, and then I'm back to my recording again. I mean, it's just superb. It makes all the difference. It's incredible. And it means that videos like this can actually be up tonight, rather than having to put them up at fucking midnight, or go live at midnight with them, because it took that long for it to finish rendering. So there you are. Anyway, as I'm saying that, if I stop talking, I will get it finished and have up for you tonight. So there you go. I enjoyed that, people. It's been a while since I've done the old podcast, and it was nice to come back and do it. And it's been nice to have one of these as well. Blimey, I feel a bit like I've only had half a beer. So happens you don't drink for 2 months, isn't it? Flag is up to you all, people. It has been an honour and a privilege serving for you once again in this podcast of mine, and I shall catch you in the next one, folks. Take it easy. Bye.